All right.
Okay. Um, Hello and welcome once again to Super Connectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend.
It's Maz.
Hey, Maz. I am so glad to have you here. Um, Welcome to Super Connectivity Reborn. We had discontinued super connectivity for a little while there. Nothing against it. We were just trying to work out what we wanted to have for content in the show. But the fans demanded we return. Well, actually, I demanded. And we are back, Maz, and I am
I
glad to be here,
demanded it, and I
especially.
am a fan.
So there we go. There we go. So, um, for those for whom this is the first time listening to Super Connectivity, let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go everywhere and every when, discuss whatever connects to something else. We will deal with the real world, with politics, with entertainment as it relates to politics. And we will then get into what is going on in all of our favorite genres, video games, etc. So, uh, let's start off with the 800-pound gorilla in the room, Elon Musk's very own Twitter.
Mm.
Um, I think he's going to pull it off. I don't know if he's going to make any money on it.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the point,
Yeah, I mean that's
but
the
it
thing.
might
It's
end
like,
up getting there.
here's the thing, and here's the thing about Twitter that I think is one of these weird aspects of Twitter is it did not. It's like, I guess if you use Twitter a lot, and there are people who use Twitter a lot, it was a useful tool. But I think its actual user base was always much more casual, which I think causes problems when you're utilizing a system that is based off of rapid responses to everyone's stream of consciousness. Um, it's a great way to get a thought out to however many people follow you. But if you're not being followed or retweeted, it's very hard to get this information out. And of course, one of the ways that got you follows was with your certified blue check, so people could follow someone who they knew who it was. And that was, of course, obviously Elon's first mistake. Making a blue check purchasable.
I mean, I
Which
think he's experimenting. He's trying ways to find ways to make it a more honest experience so that you're not inundated with fake accounts or bot accounts, that there was a way to verify. And video games have been doing the same thing, like to combat cheaters and whatnot. Now you have to sign up through your phone, you have to create a certain account, and if you do this, then we'll be able to assure that you're not cheating, or that if you are, we'll be able to catch you, you'll be personally responsible. So I mean, like, these are things that many things are struggling, many industries are struggling with the advent
yeah,
information being so readily available.
yeah. The problem is, and this is, I think, where the problem arises, is not having an infrastructure. It's one of the. This is effectively what I've learned in my life. That if you have an infrastructure, you can probably accomplish just about anything. But if you want to accomplish something without an infrastructure, you have to have a very good system in place.
Hmm.
And I think where Musk has made some real missteps is that, yes, okay, verification as a service is fine, but not if literally anyone can do it.
Yeah, and we'll learn those
And
lessons as we go. Do you know how many SpaceX rockets exploded before he got it right? And now it's unbelievably
Do you know
profitable.
how much that costs to explode that many
Exactly. No, but
SpaceX
exactly.
rockets?
But that's the thing. If not him, who? Right?
Well, given that rocket technology is actually a turn of the century science, um,
Well,
I
nobody
think a
did it
lot of
before he
people.
did. You can call it what you want, but nobody
Well,
made
I'm just saying.
reusable
Well,
boosters
yeah.
until
Well,
he did it.
yeah.
And it
He
takes
was trying
mistakes
to.
to get there. You can't be afraid of making mistakes either. And I think like if the aim is to get to somewhere better and not be like, oh, this thing is like, okay, it's moving along as it is. I know it has its problems, but we'll let it go and we'll let it fester.
Well,
Um,
no. The idea isn't let it fester. The idea is know what you're going to do before you do it.
Yeah,
And
I think that's the
you
same
know
argument
that's
NASA made with him, to saying, "Oh, you're going too fast," and we would never have our safety procedures as such that it takes us 8 years to figure out if something is ready to be tested, and then we test it. Right? We can't afford any mistakes. And he's like, "Yeah, I
but you
understand that because you're playing with people's money. That's a whole different ballgame. I understand that's what you have to do. I am not limited by those constraints." Right? So,
well, actually, he was still playing with people's money. What the government worried about was playing with people's lives, and that is something that Elon Musk was maybe less concerned about, especially with unmanned rockets. And that's fair. That's fair to say if it's just money, because there were investors that were investing money in this, and it does look at a certain point like a Ponzi scheme until you get that first contract.
mhm.
Because it's like, look, we're bringing in investors and more investors and more investors, and every time we have a modicum of success, we'll get more investors, and that's how the pyramid gets built.
Yeah,
And pyramids have stood for a very long time, so you can't always just say just because it's a pyramid that you're not building something.
right.
But you can say that social media isn't rocket science,
Is it? Oh,
you
it's
know,
not.
and that I think is where I do think that Musk is making. I think he's making missteps. I think he is.
Yeah, but you're not
He's
going to get to the
firing too
right
many
steps
people.
without stepping in some mud, you know?
Well, no, because effectively, and this is the thing. He offered all of his employees 3 weeks, 3 months severance,
Hmm.
or a guarantee to work double shifts if they stayed.
Hmm.
And it is, I've had really good jobs, but I have never had a job that if they told me I will give you 3 months severance to just go home today, that I wouldn't have taken 3 months severance.
Yeah, but
You know?
because then that means you probably didn't belong there, or like you
No,
didn't
I
buy
think there's
into the
lots of
cause.
jobs. No, no. This is a fool's perception of how things get done. And I don't mean to say you're a fool, but I am to say, if you think so, as an example, every janitor at Twitter, except they probably don't hire janitors. They probably have a janitorial service who just comes. That's the thing. It's like it's all in how you structure it. But the fact of the matter is that he probably lost a lot of his best coders
Right, but coding,
because
maybe you could say best coding, maybe they were good at coding, but ethically and philosophically, did they need to be there? Did they believe in the cause? Or, you know,
except what is the cause?
the
That,
cause
that
is getting rid of this idea that you can deplatform somebody. You remember that episode of Black Mirror where John
no,
Hamm gets the world
well,
turned off?
yeah, that's a made
And
up show.
I
Um,
understand that, but novels are made up too, but they don't speak to the human condition at all. No, of course not.
no,
Right?
well, it speaks to the human condition, but I think it's important to note that Twitter isn't the human condition.
Right,
Twitter is
but
a
because
business.
corporations were on Twitter and they were able to be very publicly called out in a really interesting way that hadn't existed before, people that considered themselves activists were able to have a large sway on the way corporations acted, the way business was run, and people started getting canceled, and then people, in my opinion, got drunk with power, and everything became a cancelable offense, and that dynamic was running wild, and so
Except I don't think that is in any way true.
you're
Observably,
welcome to that.
I mean, no, let's just be real. Let's be honest with you. Who has been canceled? Like
Louis C.K., Gina
who?
Carano.
Gina Carano. Gina Carano is working. She has to work with people who can tolerate her Nazism. So she's doing Nazi films now, so that's good for her. That's what she wanted to do.
And that's what I'm talking about. Immediately you jump to everybody's a Nazi, calling people names.
No, not everyone, just the people that are Nazis.
Okay.
At a certain point, you have to acknowledge the banality of evil.
Yeah, someone willing to call everybody a Nazi shouldn't be behind the tables at Twitter, deciding what people get to see, what people don't get to see. That kind of thing, I don't think anybody gave them permission to do.
Well, first off, the people calling everyone a Nazi. So Gina Carano, okay. So to explain to you, and I don't want to relitigate Gina Carano, an actress who could have had the world at her feet if she did not decide that her ignorant opinion was more important than people's lives, who decided that having to wear a mask was as bad as the Holocaust. So
not what she said.
Well,
it's maybe what some people wish she said.
No. Actually, let me actually tell you where she screwed up. She doubled down on it. Same thing that Louis C.K. did. Although Louis C.K. is making lots of money.
Double down on their opinion.
They doubled down on the fact that they did no wrong. And the minute someone says, I did no wrong, they probably did something wrong.
Because expressing an opinion that other people disagree with, that deserves to have your livelihood taken away from you.
And again, she's working. She's not working for a company that makes things that are mass consumed, because a lot of people don't want to consume.
No, I think the activists were able to scare the corporations into doing these things because of the power that Twitter has, and because of the power that the bots on Twitter had.
I will disagree with you, but more to the point, it's this question of because here's the real question, and I don't want to get bogged down into the politics of it, because obviously we're going to disagree on that. My real point is from a business perspective, from an engineering perspective, are the choices he's making the right choices for Twitter? And they're big, bold choices, yes.
Yeah, but there's an argument to be made that the way it was running before wasn't right either. It was just as big a mistake as the mistakes he's making right now. But at least the mistakes we're doing now are exploratory, experimental, on our way.
Except they're not experimental. That's the problem.
He reversed the blue check policy right away.
Yeah, but after he did it and cost
exactly, that's money. What an experiment is.
No, that's not how you do an experiment. First off, that's how you do experiments in science, in comic books.
You don't wait for results and then change your methodology after results?
No. You don't inject yourself with the serum, say, I sure hope this works. Because that's effectively what the blue check policy was. He injected himself. So instead of rolling out in a controlled way, new ways to determine how we're going to use this. So, for example, the original and the fact that he's doing it on Twitter, live and in person, that was a big mistake. He could have very simply reached out to certain groups and certain organizations who benefit from their blue check and say, we understand that your blue check verification is very important to you. What we would like to do is subsidize other people who need blue checks, who maybe cannot afford a blue check, by charging you as a wealthy contributor this amount of money per month for your blue check.
That's where we'll get to.
Well, sure, but that's the thing is that
that's the way he should have started.
Yes, that's the way he should have sat down for 5 minutes. I
think along political ideologies, it's a talking point that's fun to talk about for people on that side. That's really the issue. And just the
except that everybody knew what a disaster it would be the minute he did it. And that's the point.
What disaster?
It was a disaster.
What disaster was it? People got mad. People got butthurt.
People lost millions of dollars.
He lost billions of dollars, sure.
Well, Eli
Who
Lilly
else
lost
lost?
money.
Oh yeah,
People who were invested in
yeah.
Eli
And
Lilly.
whose fault was that? Trolls. Trolls.
Yes, trolls
And
that
that's
that
exactly the
that
thing
that
he's
that
trying to
that
stop.
trolls, except he's not. He's
No,
actually encouraging more trolls.
no,
So, you can say he's trying to stop, but actually he doesn't seem to be. This is what I'll say.
because
It's
we're
like you
not there yet. You're taking an old system and saying, ah ha ha, see, it didn't work. Well, that's why I'm here.
will know, except that you don't.
I
You,
think the
you
trolls are exactly pointing to the problem. The more these people try to see, oh, see, it's not working, I'm going to go in there and troll and show them how it's not working. Exactly are pointing out the problem that needs to be fixed.
okay? I mean, the problem is, Maz, is that at the end of the day, this person. So when we break down the entire storyline, it was him committing to a very bad business deal to buy Twitter for way more than it was worth.
Mm-hmm.
Then further breaking Twitter by saying he wasn't going to do it. And, you know, he really screwed up every method of dealing with this in a logical and rational way, which is why no one thinks he's logical or rational anymore. I
I don't think
really
that's
think
true. I
that
think
he
it's
is an
easy
emperor
for
without
people on one
clothes.
side to convince themselves of that, but that's not the consensus
No, see, I never had a negative opinion of Elon Musk until more recently.
until he aggressed upon your side.
No, I don't have a side, Musk.
Oh, come
Musk. That's the
on.
thing. Oh no, I call people Nazis because I am keenly aware of Nazism
All right.
because that's my people.
All right.
That's my heritage. I know what a Nazi is. You know, it's like, I can use that word. That's because that's a word we use. Okay, if you are a descendant of Nazis, you can call people Nazis because that's your people and that's where you're from. That's
All
an
right.
N word that I am very comfortable
All
using
right.
based on my family history. What? I don't know, but it's complex, Tristan. But yes, your grandfather, as you know, served in World War II for the Germans, and was awarded an Iron Cross with swords. So you can do the math, but this is that group of people, the Nazis, are very much a part of my family history. So I always feel a very real and visceral reaction when I see things replay. Now, I am not saying Elon Musk is a Nazi. Far from it. I don't think he is. Elon Musk is a hyper capitalist, which I think he would embrace. He is Randian, absolutely. I think he would embrace that as well. I do not think he's a Nazi. As to Gina Carino, she's one of the nice Nazis. She's a person who was very comfortable, is very comfortable. She's the kind of person who would be very comfortable talking about who controls Hollywood. And every time I hear who controls Hollywood, I get very mad because there may be executives, but I also know that there's a lot of wasps there too. The reality is, just because you work in Hollywood doesn't mean you're Jewish, doesn't mean you're Arab, doesn't mean you're anything of any of the groups that someone wants to bite at. Honestly, you're going to find a lot of them are, old money wasps who just are very invested in it. And likewise with every other aspect of the American system, where there is a WASP culture that is very strong and entrenched all throughout Wall Street, all throughout Hollywood, all throughout everything. And yet when it comes down to it, people focus on various
Those comments
groups
are
that
dangerous because there's a lot of history attached to anti-Semitism, and any sort of thing sort of can have repercussions for people that are Jewish. And
exactly.
so
And
that, I mean, that's understandable, but I mean, certain things are understandably, at least in poor taste or dangerous or whatever, and that's one thing. But not
Yeah.
everything is, and we have
No,
to,
not
in my
everything is.
opinion, we have to be careful with the amount of danger label we place on things, because then you lose credibility on a lot of other things, and that's where my gripe comes with being somebody who used to call themselves a liberal or progressive and be proud of it. Right now, it seems like the impression of people on that side are that they are emotional and not willing to look at things logically,
I
and
know.
that in order to be nice to people, that we should be willing to overlook the truth of things. That's the impression people, and that's not that's
And
not a
that
good impression to have.
and let me give you the counter argument, because I come at from the exact opposite perspective. I have always been proudly conservative.
Hmm.
I'm a very conservative person. I think that things should be done in a structured and orderly way, that we should discuss it rationally and reasonably and come to a conclusion that is beneficial for all. And what I see from the people who have co-opted the word conservatism is
Right.
this radical reactionaryism that is often very close to Nazism.
Right.
And I
And I
don't
see like the sides are switching. To me, I remember like in the late 80s or the 90s when it was the Republicans and the conservatives that wanted to ban rock and roll music or ban heavy metal or censor this or censor that. And I
no,
feel like
that was actually Tipper Gore. That was Tipper Gore.
you're right. You're right. But
You
there
know that
wasn't the general consensus that, but whoever was on the side of that sort of thinking is who I've always sort of not been very trustful of.
and what it is so, and there's two aspects to this, because there is the conservative reaction to newness, which is again some of my concern with Mr. Musk. Maybe I'm just too old fashioned to understand his brilliant thinking, which is a very real possibility. Hey, if it works, and I actually said, I actually think he's going to make it work. I think he's going to thread that needle and Twitter's going to come out better for it. That's my honest opinion, because I think he's betting on people not caring about the lack of personal service in the algorithm. I think that that's what
Yeah,
he's betting on.
I mean, if you call it personal service, I can call it like social engineering.
No, I see. Again, I don't think it's. I see. Here's what I'm saying. I think you're raising him up too much.
No. I'm saying that the problem was there, and the problem that was there with Twitter before was the level of social engineering.
No, see, I guess here's what I'll say. I don't think it was, because I don't think Twitter ever had the power that people thought it did.
I think it very
I
much
think
so did.
no, because I think what you're missing is this idea that Twitter could bring attention to something
Right.
that the
And
New
then,
York Times then followed up on. And in the end, it is the New York Times or other entrenched media organizations.
yeah, no, but on the big stories, no one has any issues. Of course, those deserve to be brought to light on the real big issues. But that's the thing. I don't want to conflate the big issues with the non-issues and see them both in the same
but
light.
it comes
But
down
when
to
you have
this
so many
question of
uneducated people willing to get like the glory from like catching somebody,
yeah.
that madness does run rampant in large crowds. And
Okay,
what Twitter has
but
done
let me give you
allowed the large crowd mentality to exist in everything.
but let me give you the clear and obvious example, which is the actress who plays Shuri, who, much like Ms. Carino, made some statements that were seen as problematic, very similarly about the virus, about what one needs to do, how and Disney handled her well and basically said, listen, if you want to hold your spot here, you're going to have to understand that your public face can't say these things because that's hurting the brand. That's hurting the company.
That's where the problem comes, right? It's hurting the brand. And what are they
Well,
gonna
yes.
what
But
metric do they use for hurting the brand is what happens on Twitter.
no, what metrics they use for what hurts the brand is what is getting publicity.
On Twitter, right? Exactly.
No, not on Twitter, not just on Twitter. There's other ways because it goes to Twitter, to Facebook, to this, to that, to the other, to Mastodon.
Right. Nobody's using Mastodon. Very few people using Facebook. Like, no, that's not where.
Well, I
Twitter
don't
was
know.
was the
No,
place where
what I'm saying is,
all the memes.
well, actually, first off, lots of people are on Facebook. In fact, it's actually one of the most solid
Right,
social
but
media
that's not
platforms on there
where any
because
of
it's
these
full of boring old people.
ever took off.
Well, no, but that's where they spread. And so this is actually where you have to understand the life cycle of it, because it comes in of all of these memes and these thoughts. You can start it on TikTok,
but where they become actionable is through these hashtags on Twitter.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
That's where companies have to listen.
Well, no, actually, not really, because if you're not on Twitter, here's what I'm going to say: if something trends on Twitter and no one cares, does it make a sound?
Right, but there's too many people that are easy to lead and direct, and there's too many people that
you can say that about
emotion, not enough knowledge.
You can say that about the January 6th people. You know,
yes, I mean, absolutely.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, you can say that about anyone, and I don't think you can say it's any political agenda.
No. But it's dangerous when you say that we don't have a contingency of January 6thers on our side as well. That's my point, and we refuse to.
Well, that's the see that. Side. So okay, so let's. I mean, if we want to get into January 6th, that gets into this most recent election cycle. I do want to talk comic books before we're out of this.
Right on.
So what you recently saw was a repudiation on a large scale of every person that embraced that January 6th perspective. That, and the one place you did not see this is, of course, your hometown, New York City and the New York State, where Republicans actually did do better, but not by being election denialists, but by running classic conservative, I'm worried about crime
issues.
And exactly. And this is what I call the great silent majority. The vast majority of people in this world, in this country, are not activists. And this is a term that is associated with conservatism because it was first coined by Richard Nixon.
Activism?
To talk about the silent majority. Which is the opposite of activism. Oh. And it's associated with conservatism, but it's not. It's actually associated with the people that just don't care about whatever you're riled up about. They don't care if gay people can get married. They don't care if you choose to have an abortion. They don't care about a lot of things, but they care about their bread and butter issues and their concerns. And the fact of the matter is that, as it turned out, the possibility of a loss of democracy was a real concern for them. So when you play too far, you will make that silent majority rise to say, no, that isn't that conservative value that we enjoy. This is why I say I am not just that,
but I think when you try to dismantle everything, people get scared.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you try to dismantle the meaning of everything and you want to redefine everything, people get scared. And they want to say, we're going to hold on to whatever little bit of traditionality is left before you take that away too.
Exactly.
And if you're not careful when communicating with the other side, then that fear can fester and it can pop up in ugly ways. But we all have to be responsible for that, and we all have to take care of each other. right? And we can't
Exactly.
demonize one side or the other. And too much of that is going on either side, and even the
Yeah.
intellectual and smart and caring people on either side are giving into it.
Well, the problem is that, and this is the literal problem, is that there actually are Nazis
Right.
on the
But
Republican side.
it's hard for half the people to take you seriously when you call everybody a Nazi. Now it conflates the issue.
Except if you're totally cool hanging out with Nazis,
Yeah, but you call
how are you
everybody a
doing the
Nazi. So
Nazis?
what am I supposed to say, right? I'm not willing to like just put
Well,
a
no,
label on
but the
somebody
thing is,
because of
like,
one
if
bad
someone,
tweet.
if well, and again, like I said, it's never one bad tweet, because one bad tweet
Maybe from
is
8 years ago.
easily, which is easily undone by a my bad, which is what Trevor Noah did
Yeah,
when
yeah,
they
but
tried to
but
get it.
but
No,
nobody's
because Trevor
obligated to
Noah
adhere to
had this
your
exact same
view of the
issue.
world. It's like
No, Maz, I'm telling you history. At the time Trevor Noah was made head of the Daily Show, people went through, found his 8-year-old tweets. They said, hey, he thinks all these things. And he said, yeah, those are dumb jokes I did when I was starting out in comedy and I was trying to get a rise out of people. I don't do those jokes anymore. That's actually not a very good joke. You can tell because I was a young, dumb kid when I said it. And he didn't double down. He didn't push to say, hey, how dare you take away my free speech? He said, yeah, no, I'm embarrassed by that joke too. Um, and that's the thing. It's like, it's okay if you're embarrassed by the joke. It's okay if someone says, oh, you might not know this, but that image you used, that's from a white supremacist website. So while you may agree on the surface with that idea, there's a deeper point they're trying to make with it. And then if you say, I don't care because it's my free speech, then people go, well, maybe you should care a little bit about what you're putting your name on. If you don't care what you're putting your name on, why should we care who you are? Why should we have any love for you as a celebrity? Because celebrity is just about people loving you. And if you're going to come back to us with being mean about it and not accepting the idea that, we all make mistakes and it's all a learning journey that we're all on together, people will say, well, I don't really like that person. I don't have good feelings for them anymore. They kind of queered the deal, as it were. Which, that right now I can be canceled for saying. Although I do identify as queer, so that's perfectly okay. Again, I can use that word. All right, but that's my argument on that. I do want to talk quickly about Iger and Chapek over at Disney. Bob Chapek, who I was very
Oh, he's
vocal
the new
about.
head at Disney.
Well, he was the new head of Disney.
Uh-huh.
Now he's the old head of Disney. And Bob Iger, who was the old head of Disney, is now back being the head of Disney.
Oh, wasn't he the guy that everybody didn't like?
Well, I didn't like him. I don't know if everyone didn't like him.
Wasn't he like
I worried, I worried about him because I felt that he didn't understand show business enough.
Oh.
And like I said, I kind of felt he was the second coming of Roy Disney, which is when Disney started having a lot of troubles. Although you can make a solid argument that what was happening under Roy and what was happening under Chapek, it wasn't pretty, but it was necessary because the systems had gotten too bloated. But if you go too far in the other direction, again, to get it into this idea, go too far in the other direction, it scares people too. And if you treat your actors and writers as cogs in a machine instead of a central part of what we're building, you run the risk of alienating the people that actually make your work good. And there is maybe this argument that came out that as they were building phase 4, there were some missteps as far as storytelling that maybe wouldn't have happened under Iger's watch. Although one could say that this was this was all Feige's doing, you know? So again, I don't know how much you can lay at Chapek's feet, but he made an easy scapegoat for that,
What
for
do
the
you
people that
think?
didn't.
So,
Well,
so
I
this whole
actually,
expansion into like the magic realm or the cosmic realm, a lot of those were misfires, right? And then
no, that's my thing. I think that just because something doesn't hit doesn't mean it's not important.
no, I'm
And
not saying like for the sake of the argument, I'm not saying that it was or whatever,
yeah,
but those are the misfires that they're talking about, right?
yeah. I mean that is exactly what it is. It is this. So here's what I will say. What has been happening in the last phase of Marvel? I don't know what phase we're on. I think it's 4. It might be 5. For all I know, we're in phase 32. It's fine either way. The current phase, which is ending with Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, um, is the phase where we basically revealed that everything was a lot weirder than we thought it was. That at the start of this, we thought the weirdest thing was a billionaire in an iron suit. It was, a true Randian hero, a guy who just says, I'm smart enough and I'm capable enough that I can build my own suit from a box of scraps. I can become the hero I want to be, and I can affect the world in a way that no one has power to keep me from. And that is a glorious image for the character. Um, but as it turns out, and this is where I think there is this larger story being played out, they really were not the first. Because almost immediately after that, and before that, even with Ang Lee's Hulk, which has never been actively denied as canonical by Marvel. And now we're into this introduction of the idea of variants, so that, quite frankly, Ang Lee's Hulk can very much be the Eric Bana and the Ed Norton and then the Mark Ruffalo Hulk can all be tied in this line, going in the same way that Terrence Howard's existence does not negate
Don
Don
Cheadle.
Cheadle's existence. You know, that these are just changes, these are variants in the timeline, but that the history does flow.
Hmm.
And then when you introduce things like the Eternals, um, and you introduce things like witches as things that have always been there, in its own way, even the existence of the sorcerers is that same idea that we're putting that actually, no, there was always magic. There was always all these things. And the fact that a super soldier from the 40s is sort of the first, but actually, even then, probably isn't, because there's probably things older than him, like magic and witches and warlocks and who knows what else, and always the Eternals. So, as we move forward, what we're going to see, and we've had like several references to vampires in this thing, and we know Blade is coming. And this is what I think is going to be the core of what we're going to be seeing in the near future, which is this idea that everyone's saying, well, how are they going to introduce mutants? How are they going to introduce the Fantastic Four? And what I think we're going to get is similar to Spider-Man, where we just skip the origin. We're going to find out that all these things were there the whole time. You know, and that I think is why I think Secret Invasion is going to be very big, because I think Secret Invasion is what's going to bring the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. universe back into the fold. Expressly because the entire second part of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was S.H.I.E.L.D. has fallen. There is no S.H.I.E.L.D. And yet there was this constant running S.H.I.E.L.D. based off of these Black Ops budgets and these things that people had hidden, and that a rebuilt shield comes out of it. And I get the feeling that when we get to that Secret Invasion and Nick Fury, we're gonna see Mac and Daisy and these characters coming back into the fold as no, we're the Secret Shield,
Hmm.
the Brotherhood of the Shield, which goes deeper than just Shield and is actually this much older organization that has always been here,
Hmm.
trying to keep this world intact. And when it was infiltrated by Hydra, they hid all these things. Then once Hydra was destroyed, all these things started coming out of the woodworks, and suddenly there are all these mutants showing up, like
Namor.
Elilagra. I'm sorry.
Namor.
Well, Namor, but before him was the Eagle in She-Hulk,
The
the guy
eagle?
with the sword who everyone said was a matador, and I
Oh.
am not a man. That character is a mutant,
Hmm.
and he basically fires electricity. That's his mutant power. And their choice to bring him in there as just no, here's a superhuman with superhuman powers, and we're not even going to explain it.
Hmm.
Because you notice that Manbull gets an explanation. He is a lab he's a lab experiment gone awry.
Hmm.
We know the origin of the Wrecker and the Wrecking Crew as Guardian construction tools. You know, there is a way that they are getting their powers. Who didn't get an origin was Elilagra, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but it basically means it's Spanish for the eagle. However you say the
Ah.
eagle in Spanish. And not our first mutant, because he comes after Ms. Marvel, who was revealed to be a mutant, but a mutant with no explanation for his powers because there's not even a triggering event that we know of. So I think that's what we're going to get. So I do think when we get X-Men, when we get the Fantastic Four, there's not going to be this moment of realization. We're just going to be like, no, there's a school in Westchester, Connecticut for kids like you.
Hmm. Yeah,
And that's with the X-Men are.
I feel like they took the pandemic as an opportunity to do some world building. And that's fine because it's going to help whatever we build towards later. And the other side of it is, personally, I thought a lot of it was a misfire. Like everything involving Doctor Strange has been just not believable and annoying and weird.
Okay.
Um, but I do appreciate that they took risks. Right? They
Yeah.
tried to tell wild stories, and I'm willing to give them that room. I won't blame them for taking risks that didn't pan out. And even as risks that didn't pan out, they were serviceable for the rest of the franchise and for everything else. So that's totally cool. And I love that they got so big that they had the ability to take these risks and be able to absorb some of the not so successful things and still have it be, something that feeds into the bigger story. And the mutants have me very
Exactly.
excited. But I will tell you, watching Wakanda Forever, it finally felt like Marvel again. I don't know.
Yeah.
Everything beforehand just felt like not the. I just go back to like the first Avengers movie, right? Just the sheer joy and awe of superheroes, nothing terribly complicated. It's just a good story with a good bad guy and a good guy and the good guy struggling, whatever. It went back to those simple things and it felt fun. It felt I had a ball with that movie. I thought it was great.
Yeah. And I agree. I agree. Although I actually think that, and again, Wakanda, again, an idea that is there is hidden weirdness in this
Mm.
world. That Wakanda existed for years and no one knew. Except for maybe if like Claw knew what was in Wakanda. Claw knew about vibranium, that there was this stuff that had come out, but it was too precious even to sell. So that we know that there has been secret vibranium getting out of Wakanda. Um, and honestly, what happened to all of the vibranium after Age of Ultron is certainly an open question. Um,
Mm.
which might explain where a lot of Baron Zemo's money comes from, quite frankly. You know, doing that salvage on all of that vibranium
You
of
know.
all these Ultron bots, you know. There's a lot of possibilities in all of it. And that I think is what is great about what has been built with Marvel of late. It's just this idea of telling a story where things are getting weirder because there is a deeper story to everything. Any final thoughts on tonight's stories, Maz?
No, I thought they were really fun discussions.
Good. I enjoyed this too. I hope we do a lot more super connectivities in the future.
Indeed.
If people would like to connect with you, super connect with you, Maz, and tell their stories, how can they find you?
They can email me at mozmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Moz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, everyone can always write to us all here at the Capes and Lunatics family at CapesandLunatics, spelled out at gmail.com. And of course, call us at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. Leave us a voice message. We'll play it on the air because we love having you guys be with us here because it really socializes everything. And of course, go down to Linktree, linktr.ee/Capes and Lunatics, where you can join our Patreon and just send us money every month just for fun and get amazing privileges like voting on things and whatnot. We would appreciate that. Also, if that's too much, but you still want us to know you love us, just send us some Cash App money or buy some of our merch, like real aluminum mugs or awesome t-shirts or phone cases. We would love if you could do that. And of course, if you just want to write to me in that old-fashioned email way that our mothers and fathers once did, do so at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitter, which still exists. By the way, I didn't get to make my one joke about Mastodon.
Oh,
Is like my main problem with Mastodon
the band?
is that I'm sorry?
The band Mastodon?
No, the service Mastodon.
Oh, what is Mastodon?
Oh, it's Twitter. But like it's Twitter, but not Twitter because it's like
It's another one of these.
it's like an open source Twitter where
Gotcha.
people build server. It's very interesting how it works. It actually sounds very interesting. But my problem with Mastodon is that Echo and the Bunnymen did a song many years ago called, and I think it's actually called A Little More K, but it might be called Where's the Service? And it's about basically the lead singer of Echo and the Bunnymen buying a computer, realizing that it's become hopelessly outdated, doesn't have enough K. This was back when we measured computers in K, kids. And the glory days. And you know, he goes through all of this trouble because he wanted to buy an Oldsmobile, but he bought a computer instead. And when he has to upgrade it, he just needs a memory card to put in the back of his PC, but the person rings him up for too much money. And at the end, he says, "Hey, where's the service?" And the chorus is, "It's gone, 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 gone like the age of the mastodon. It's gone, 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 gone." So I don't know if that was intentional in naming Mastodon after a reference to Echo and the Bunnymen, but honestly, it gives me pause before moving forward because
I hope that wasn't
it
the
triggers.
reference because that doesn't sound good. Just talking about you're extinct before you even come into existence. That's the name you chose. I mean, I hope
know,
that wasn't the reference.
You know what? But the actual metaverse is also a very dark and crazy reference to another sci-fi novel where the metaverse is like this mind control device. So, you know, I think sometimes these scientists will use references that they think are cool, but they're not as cool as they think they are. So, moving right along. Anyway, getting back to that, follow me on the Twitters when I live tweet things when I feel like it at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the two E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing.
Thank you, Maz. Ladies and gentlemen, you have connected with us today, and we have appreciated it. And we desperately hope you come back again soon to super connect with us again. Good night.
Arg?
Arg? Arg, yeah. There we go.
All right.
Awesome, Mozzie.